Well, hello, that's me again. Today is October 14th. It's Monday of 2024. Don't be surprised that they're coming to you next day after the yesterday video. So there are some things, and believe me, each of the date when I produce the video, I have this special folder. And you won't believe how much information which is critical is being lost because, first, I will repeat again, 30-35 minutes is the maximum the human attention can sustain, actually be concentrated and focused. And secondly, the events are developing at such speed that, as I already stated many times before, you just cannot ignore them. And you have to come up with this and you have to explain to people, not because of my ego, make no mistake, I'm a normal human being. I obviously like sometimes when people pat me on the back and say, hey, good boy, Andrew, or Andre, as you know, but I do it because, as I already stated, it is primarily an educational channel, and I'm not into reporting the news. I'm not a journalist. In fact, I would be. Although people call me a journalist for some reason, but it's pretty insulting, honestly, but it is what it is. So, here it is. What you saw in the beginning of this video. Well, what can I say? This is that thingy. It's US made, and it's a prototype which is being tested on the battlefields in and around Kursk Oblast, which is being, I went on record yesterday in my blog and I explained that it's more than just, it's not even mop-up, it's primarily digging things or digging those people of armed forces of Ukraine out. But this is the Striker CUAS by the United States, and it was this prototype which was delivered to the Ukrainian army, which is of course really not Ukrainian, it is primarily NATO army. And look at this, this is a very, very interesting thing. As you can see yourself, it is packed with the electronic warfare. Look at those antennas. It has this all kinds of the air defense capabilities against primarily UAVs, drones. It cannot shoot down anything serious, but in terms of the drones and protection of the force, something like on the platoon or company level, it is supposed to be something which should be effective. Well, it wasn't. As you saw yourself, result was not very positive for them, and those guns, laser, what have the Shorad missiles, with what have you, didn't work. It just got blown up to smithereens, and that was it. That was the combat experience of this Striker CUAS, and as I already stated so many times, it's really, how to put it, they're not that good. Okay, let me put it this way. This doesn't mean that, United States cannot, for example, create something decent. It certainly can. I mean, and again, for example, if you take a look at F-16 and F-15s, aircraft, combat aircraft, and for their time, they were pretty impressive machines, you know. So there, in fact, is probably F-15 could legitimately, at some point of time, rate itself as the best current fighter in the world by the technical parameters, because F-15 never encountered any serious enemy in the air, but that's the love of those all military analysts, which are primarily fanboys, so to call things like just because they like them, visually. But no, F-15 was a very decent aircraft. It is obviously now obsolete for the modern battlefield, and especially in terms of the mid to long range air defense, not to speak about meeting something like Su-35 and let alone Su-57 and even Su-30 SMs too, which are of course piloted by now probably most flown in terms of the hours and combat missions pilots in the world, which are the Russian Air Force. So much for Mr. Mark Kelly, who for some reason known as the good pilot. I don't know, he was flying pretty much in the free skies over Iraq and hunting those Scots, but yeah, so much for Russians not being able to fly formation, and I'm quoting him, that's what he said at the beginning of the special military operation. But I want to get a little bit into the situation which many people asked me, and they asked me not for once, and actually quite a lot, and some of them stated that I need to make a special video about it. The problem, of course, for the special video about it, of my statement, or about my statement, that what we observe today is the end of the last salvos of the World War II. They say you have to explain, you have to, define basically what it is. Well, let me demonstrate to you something which explains to you why it is what it is today. Here is actually, it's not Mr. Pushkov. Mr. Pushkov, I don't like the guy. He's a senator, he is a classic BS, but look at this. This explains you a little bit that Professor Lloyd Llewellyn Jones on September 14th, he comments on this. This is what we have descended to. Tourists at Auschwitz Museum posing for photos and selfies. Auschwitz is a sacred place for human civilization. It is a memorial to the dead. It is not a theme park. For me, these photos, to paraphrase Hannah Arendt, show the true banality of ego. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, say, selfies. Yeah, just show, it's Auschwitz. It's a fun place, right? So, well, sadly, this is what modern West has become. And especially when you go talk about some of the American tourists, they have no clue what they are looking at. And as I already stated, I want to stress, no American serviceman, from general to, the grunt, ever fought in defense of his country, and they never experienced war. None of them. There's not a single person in Washington who knows what war is. None of them ever lost their relative, their property. They had their wife raped, children, thrown into the slavery. By the way, as armed forces of Ukraine and those NATO instructors do, they practically run more than 1,000 civilians, which of course war criminals from New York Times or Washington Post or CNN love to call their POWs. Yes, in reality, they are of course hostages, and now their relatives are absolutely in agony trying to find those people. Well, they are in Ukraine now, and they probably will be well treated, brainwashed, and just traded. So that's the American and NATO, Western type of people. That's how they teach them to fight. And here we have the situation, which is one of the few nations which maintained their any kind of the connection to Russia in sense of the remembrance. And here we have Mr. Blaha, Slovak member of parliament. Luboš Blaha visited Moscow over the weekend to thank Russia for liberating his country from fascism in World War II and to apologize for the growing Russophobia in the EU and the US. Well, US, it's very easy because obviously you can, well, with all my love for my fellow Americans, but for many people you can pour any kind of the BS and crap, over their ears and they will believe it. Because obviously, as I already stated, United States has zero understanding of real war. But so Blaha, a member of Prime Minister Robert Fico's Social Democratic Smer SD party, published a video of himself visiting Red Square and laying flowers at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Yeah, it's dedicated to 27 million people of Soviet Union, among them 11 million Soviet soldiers, Red Army soldiers who died during World War II and are now called occupants. They have, those memorials and the monuments are being removed in the eastern, especially in Poland, for example, and obviously in the fascist statelets such as the Baltics, which is of course financed by the United States, which, as I already stated, they don't have honor there in Washington. They don't understand what it is. So, and he talks about, that I came as a friend of Russia Russia because I can no longer look at the growing Russophobia in the West. Blaha said in a video published in Telegram. The Russian people have made incredible sacrifices to liberate Slovakia, he added. Blaha said he wanted to apologize for the belligerent, hateful, and virtually fascist resolutions adopted by the EU Parliament against Russia. And it's not virtually fascist, they are fascist. If you remember, as has been discussed many times and has been pointed out many times, it has been recorded. Some people doubt the veracity of this, but let me put it this way. Even if it hasn't been true, which I think so it was true, that during the conversation between two legends of Red Army, obviously, Georgy Zhukov, Marshal Georgy Zhukov, and Marshal Konstantin Rokossovsky, Zhukov told Rokossovsky, we liberated them and they will hate us for that. He was prescient, and it's just one of the greatest visions, so to speak, into the future by a man who understood the real cost of the war. And if you will ask me if it is true, yes, they hate Russians for liberating them. Because, well, Europeans are generally, not all, I mean, make no mistake, I don't make the sweeping generalizations, but most of Europe population, as I already stated, I don't know the exact number, percentage, 65, 70, but majority nonetheless, a very significant majority, they hate Russians. They hate Russians because for the trauma, because their favorite, the project of the Third Reich failed, and these were Russians who just basically destroyed it. Of course, then, as we already know, when I say that we are looking at the basically the finishing salvos, so to speak, of the World War II, considering the fact and the energy with which so-called historians in the West, especially Anglo-American historians and Germans, there is a whole anecdote now, a funny story, and the term, which is kind of a meme, there is called the German war statistics. These are the guys who were just pulling, numbers out of the ass, and then, of course, they are loved by all kinds of the, those exceptionalists in America. They quote them without understanding what war is. But yes, this is their statistics, and according to them, these were United States, some, remote help of those stupid Russians who helped them to liberate world, of Nazism. Well, obviously, after that, United States and Great Britain, with the help of the Pope, successfully, imported all the Nazi, basically collection of people, including such as the SS Standartenführer, or Gruppenführer, I believe, of SS, Werner von Braun, for example. And don't tell me that the guy was just, he was coerced of being the SS. Yeah, sure. So, and by the way, the representative of Pope now just is flying, or if not already, in Russia. Why, you may ask? Well, although I make the basically, joke, which it is, and it's absolutely justified, about the German statistics. Before I go and present to you German statistics, which even Germans cannot lie anymore, and they are really good at lying, especially, in terms of anything related to warfare and industries. But before we go, just to demonstrate to you who those people are, and why Russians they don't take West seriously in terms of, except for the nut jobs who may unleash the thermonuclear war, which they still may, but it looks like United States, even the Biden administration is getting the, people who at least are afraid of their lives, for their lives, are getting in, control of whatever is left of this administration, the cold, I don't even know how to define it anymore. But so we have now, you know what, it's a very interesting report today by the guy with the call sign, which is concrete. Beton in Russian is concrete, which, so, and here it is, as you can see yourself, and this evidence mounts, it's incredibly, wide and deep pile of evidence, if you wish. And the fighter, he is beton, he is concrete, described the reaction of foreign mercenaries in the armed forces of Ukraine to the approach of the Russian armed forces. This is from Lugansk, as you can see, self-reported today. Foreign mercenaries in the ranks of the armed forces of Ukraine are the first to leave the front lines when they notice the approach of Russian assault groups. A senior instructor of the Leningrad regiment with the call sign Beton, concrete, who trains fighters of the Zapad group of forces, told RIA News, "When our assault is underway, they are the first to run away," the source said. And then he continued describing those so-called mercenaries. Most of them are actually not mercenaries. Very many of them are actual cadre officers of NATO who do their manual regime, tactical and operational command, basically combat control of the whatever is left of armed forces of Ukraine. In his opinion, foreigners are in the positions to raise the morale and motivation of the soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine, since many of the Ukrainians do not understand why they should go to war. Well, I mean, yeah, but they wanted it anyway, so most of them anyway. But they, foreign mercenaries, do not fight. They are more, so to speak, there to raise the spirit the Ukrainian soldier of the Ukrainian soldiers mobilized. But only when it smells fried. Smelling fried something means in Russia it's a real trouble is coming. They are the first to run away, the soldier explained. Earlier, Beton, the concrete, told RIA News that the soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine and foreign mercenaries are in conflict over the better provision of the latter. Beton, he commands the commanding motorized rifle platoon, so he explains all those nuances, so to speak, of the combat work against those so-called, the best fighting force in the world. You have to understand, very many people in command are from the United States, on the armed forces of Ukraine, they are from the United States, from Great Britain, Poland, Germany, Sweden, what have you. And yeah, I mean, as I already stated, those guys saw the first time in their lives the real war. And many of them do not want to die for what? The only advantage they have over Russians, for example, United States doesn't know what it to be on the receiving end of something like, Iskander missiles, let's put it this way, or Zircon, or God forbid, what have you, including strategic weapons. They have no clue. They have no, even the reference point to understand that. Because, for example, any merc or mercenary man, well, it's usually mercman, it's primarily about the Mercury, which is the car. But no, it's mercenaries. And those cadre officers from U.S. Army, they go out there, and if they have family, which they treasure, many of them do, they know they are safe. They are, they will not be attacked by those nasty Russians. But they go out, and most of them, as has been already stated many times before, they serve as the barrier troops. They are good at shooting into the backs of the retreating Ukrainian troops. And so that's what they do. Plus, they command, of course, this like the chessboard. They think they have those, platoons, companies, and they say, move there, stay there, die there. This is pretty much the level of the tactical training of the U.S. Army nowadays. And all this, fluffy, rhetoric is, as I already stated, they do not understand what continental warfare is. And don't start me on the American Civil War and all that. It is called Civil War for a reason, and the only threat of the foreign invasion they had was obviously the threat of the Great Britain invading on the part of the South. That's it. So anybody who comes here and tells me the war for independence, if not for French, there would have been very little of the United States today. And of course, the War of 1812, so-called, this is basically the battalion-size engagement, and they call it war. Well, it was hostility, okay? Combat, so. And that is the issue. That is the thing which you have to explain to people who have approximately the same psychological portrait, if you wish, or profile as those people who go to Auschwitz, and they do make their selfies out there. They have no morality. This is their, they say banality of ego. It's not banality of ego. It's evil. And there will be, I am positive, there will be people in comments who say, but look at Gaza and atrocities committed by Israel. Yeah, I'm looking at Gaza. I know what is happening there. Crime against humanity by Israelis. That's what happens there. But you know what? This has nothing to do with those people, innocent people, many of them Jews, no doubt about, who have been tortured and killed in industrial quantities on many and very many concentration and death camps, which many of them have been on the territory of the present day or whatever is left of it, Ukraine. But again, you cannot explain to the average American grunt what it is. You cannot explain pretty much to most of the officers there. They do not know the history of the World War II. They do not understand the scales. They don't understand scope. Most of them, some do, but most don't. They really believe all that. And as I already stated, for the armed forces which believe that the Patton was a genius and a military genius, you can sell pretty much anything. So, but why also today? Why also we are discussing these issues apart from the catastrophic losses which continue to befall, the Ukrainian armed forces of Ukraine? If you take a look, we have again this situation, above 2,000, 6 tanks, all kinds of the equipment being wiped out, especially in Kursk area. And if you go to my blog, you will see yourself many things which I cannot post in my video here on YouTube. We have the movement on Pokrovsk from our good friend Marat. As you can see yourself, the how the line of the combat contact changes, this dashed line, front is moving, and nothing they can do about it. And that is why they panic, and that is why there is a desperation and hatred and Russophobia. I mean, it's just through the roof, really. Here's also the situation, actually, the change of those repetitions, so to speak, large arrows, but it's for today, as you can see yourself. And so, what is this all about? Our good friends Alex and Alexander from Durand, guys, they correctly stated that the United States is withdrawing from the Project Ukraine. They have no choice. No matter what they do, no matter what those people in Washington try to present it as, they will have to face the situation that Russians will dictate the conditions of surrender for the United States. And the start of it, well, is on the October 22 in 8 days. That is called Kazan, because it's the metaphysical defeat. It's not just strategic, militarily, or even on the level of the grand strategy, which they never knew and don't know still what it is. All those, as I already stated, the pathos-ridden strategists who quote Clausewitz and Sun Tzu all the time, useless, irrelevant. And again, this Sun Tzu and Clausewitz thing is already so dated. But how can you explain it to them? And so we have the Germans, no less. The Kiel Report, Kiel Institute. It's a German institute for the world economy. As you can see yourself, they talk about it's September 2024. It's very fresh. It's written by a couple of the, foreign, non-Slavic people like Guntram Wolf, and Kathleen Bushnell. Then you have a couple of the guys, most likely some kind of the liberal BSs from Russia, which is Alexander Burlikov and Ivan Kharitonov, could be from Kiev for all I care. Nobody cares what they are talking about, who they are, because whatever their so-called Russian expertise they have in the West, it's all fraud primarily. But yet, even this thing, Kiel Report, this institute, is talking about this report which is called Fit for War in Decades, Europe's and Germany's slow rearmament vis-a-vis Russia. I will tell immediately that whatever is there, they try to, basically communicate the ideas that Germany is in no way, just falling behind, that in terms of their rearmament. I have news. Germany is not the subject of the international politics. It is the country with a zero sovereignty, and eventually, and as we already saw yesterday, the reputation for the German weapons is nil. Zero. Fact is, I would say that it is a negative number, but Germans have to kind of accept this, and so this Kiel Institute continues to, produce all kinds. This, showing how Russian industry, which everybody shocked, was producing things. So as you can see yourself, the growth across the, well, they do those main, so to speak, kinetic systems, such as, what, vehicles, main battle tanks, and short range and the medium range air defense, lancet loitering munition, and obviously it doesn't count for the huge other spectrum of the weapons, and especially systems such as the command, control, communications, and computers, C4, which play the key role, because the numbers of the equipment itself, they are misleading. It is how you use it, and that's where the Germany is not even the same league, not even in the same galaxy with what Russians do in combat, in terms of combat, and so goes for U.S. Army, who is suffering. Many of those generals who lost all their wars, they suffering from the acute case of the professional envy, because they look at those generals who are now becoming legendary, and, well, there you go. Guess what? Russia is not demilitarizing Ukraine, which is done. Ukraine is the virtual state, and its armed forces nothing more than the ragtag army, which still has some support from the West. But look at this. I like how they present it. Own calculations, that's their source, based on the methodology detailed in Annex A2. I wouldn't trust any methodology by the Western economists, with the exception of some very few select people. But these guys, yeah, and they obviously make references to, guess what? They make references to the Ukrainian and American sources, which is, that is to say, it's still fake statistics. But even this statistic, look what they say. So look attentively at the red solid sustainment line, shows the production rate needed to keep Russian units at combat efficiency, given the units in theater and nature of the fighting. I don't think so any of them understand the nature of the fighting, but yeah, let it leave it at that. The blue dashed generation line shows the extra production rates needed to fully equip the 3 new armies on the, 25th Combined Arms Army, 40th and 44th Army Corps, created by Russia in May 2023, within a reasonable time frame, 18 months. So these formations are combat effective. Okay, that's fine. Sure, they make all those graphs, and as I already, I don't even know how to describe it. You'll talk with any of them, with those people. But at least they admit, that they are shocked by the whole situation, with Russian armed forces and Russian industries and Russian economy. But yeah, they can do all graphs. I can draw graphs too, including the, the complex functions on the, as related to the, stupidity in time, which is, of course, the more time goes, the stupider the, Western analysts and sources become, because they obviously have to deal with the huge Kubler-Ross issue of the bargaining and acceptance. So, but up to now, roughly 80% of production of armored vehicles, they say, are retrofits of existing hulls from available stockpiles of Soviet and Russian vehicles. Although when stockpiles deplete, production may be less affected than assumed. Well, I mean, pretty much every single assumption of the Western military, NATO military, and Western so-called economies, such as this Kiel Report, whoever wrote this garbage, but still, remarkable garbage worth discussing. They never got anything right. They just can't. And so they continue to, discuss those things. And, as you can see yourself, that's what this report is about, how Germany and Europe are really kind of behind. Well, Europe is done. They have to understand that. And even the United States is done in terms of the, because it will not be able to catch some critical generation or close the gap, generational gap in some weapons. But then, of course, they come up with this thing. So this is really a funny thing. Yeah, it can be expected that Russia will have more than replenished its stockpiles and have deepened them sufficiently to maintain high daily firing rates for an extended period of time. Yeah, I mean, Russia can go and with this special military operations for as long as it takes. And again, those people still cannot wrap their brains around, because, as I already stated, when you use, for example, RAND models of the balance of power, it's written by amateurs. The moment you see all those factors, which are monetary factors, and GDP, throw it away, it's garbage, it's trash. And I don't know, maybe those political scientists in RAND, and who some of them former officers, still believe this BS, but you know what? RAND is the military-industrial complex outlet. They pay money, and they will come up with any kind of the pseudo-academic garbage. So, however, although not analyzed in detail in this report, the situation is similarly concerning for other munition productions, such as missiles of all type, precision-guided glide bombs, air defense interceptions, and even Zircon hypersonic missiles. Data from the war so far shows that Ukrainian air defense has overall interception rate of 30% for missiles and 60% for drones. Well, particular concerning examples include Russian monthly consumption rates of more than 1,000 glide bombs, and blah 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 blah. So this data, even which is pathetic, really 30% for missiles and 60% for drones, is still provided by, you know what? It's still provided primarily by these people from United States and Ukraine. And we know that, you know, and according to the Ukrainians, they managed to, you know, shoot down daily, I mean, hundreds of the Zircons and Kinzhals, and even Iskanders. But for some reason, those, you know, nasty Iskanders always find it a target. And yesterday in Odessa, yet another, you know, peaceful ship with the corn has been blown up to smithereens by the salvo of the Oterka Iskander. And for some reason, it started to detonate after that. I guess this peculiar type of the popcorn they delivered there, most likely of the production of the NATO countries, primarily United States. And so when you read this report and you look at this whole situation, even they begin to really admit that, yeah, Europe is nowhere near. It's not going to be, you know, anywhere near. This is as simple as that. This is the 21st century economy. Germany altogether existed with its you know, relative wealth. As I already stated, the standard of living was good, but you know what, it was based primarily on Russians, you know, and Russian energy. It's gone now, and we see, as I already demonstrated to you in a few other videos, the decline is dramatic in industrial output. And so goes through, and this is also true for France and Italy. After then, what do you have? Those, you know, Spaniards, yeah, impress me. So, and this is how it goes. And it also goes for the United States, which is obviously, it's a slow unfolding, well, not that slow, in historical terms, it's pretty fast, economic catastrophe. You know, the Boeing laid off 17,000 people, which is the 10% of its force, labor force. The things, the layoffs are everywhere, especially all those so-called tech companies, which are not really tech. I mean, primarily they consist of many of them Indian programmers who are sitting there and write code. That's pretty much, and they produce all kinds of the garbage in IT industry which you don't need, all those features which you do not need. They are completely contrived, and they basically break down on your computer, you know, slow down your browsers and things like that. That's the self-leaking ice cream cone, and it is being decimated by the layoffs. Meanwhile, in a conclusion, if you take a look at this, no, it's not Ocean naval maneuvers. These are not even recent maneuvers of Russia and China in Okhotsk Sea. No, 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 no. This is yesterday. This is the Russian Defense Ministry showing that how Russian and Chinese navies conduct joint patrols and actually work out real combat tasks. And those combat tasks are anti-submarine warfare and air defense of the order. You may ask, what the hell is going on there? Well, as you know, Russia doesn't want the war in its backyard, and especially against its real alliance friend, who is China. So guess what? Russian and Chinese Navy continued training non-stop. They continue training as the joint force. And if you take a look at the date of the Okean 2023, it still continues today. It's non-stop, week after week after week, that those formations of the Russian Navy and Chinese Navy train their combat tasks. Not some kind of maneuvering, although of course maneuvering is the part of the deal. But no, they shoot weapons, actual weapons. They search for the submarines. They launch cruise missiles. They do all of it, and including interaction with such carriers of the long-range cruise missiles as Russian Tu-95s and Chinese long-range bombers. And this is going on for, as I already stated, week after week after week, non-stop training. You may say, why? Or ask why. Well, very simple. United States and is just basically in this desperation mode. Who knows? They may do stupid thing and pretend that they're the last chance on exit from this strategic, not dead end. It's over. They are already defeated. Could be they're unleashing the war against China in a desperate attempt to show that United States still matters militarily for the rest of the world, which it really doesn't anymore. So who knows? So Russians and Chinese are preparing for any kind of the Gulf or Tonkin type false flag from the United States. Maybe those British guys, they are really good only at that. They cannot fight. They don't know what real fighting is. But yeah, so, and that is why you can see those, all the ships, hanging out together and doing what they do. Shooting weapons, searching for the enemy submarines, and things of this nature. And it's all done near China. So, evidently, Russians demonstrating that, yeah, they not gonna like if anybody tries to attack China, and in this case, Russia probably will get involved. And that is a very interesting situation to discuss, and we will discuss it later. But for now, I'm done, guys. And this is everything I needed to tell you today. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on the Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. And it has nothing to do with my t-shirt. I have two of them. I wear them constantly and people love it. So I go into some coffee shop. They already know what I need. So there you go. So have a nice rest or the start of your week, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.